John Huber is at it again. He filed a lawsuit some months ago trying to rake in some cash off of the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department and the Kenosha Police Department and a whole bunch of others. Now that one got tossed, but he's trying again, and this time he's included Kyle Rittenhouse and a whole bunch of other police departments and sheriff's departments. The list of defendants has really grown here, but has John Huber's chances? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dredd to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dredd Show.
Now, the first time that I covered this lawsuit, it was a mess. And at the time I thought, okay, it was maybe rushed. I could forgive some mistakes here and there. There is no excuse now. They've had plenty of time to get this right. And incredibly enough, the same mistakes that were in the earlier one that they filed are in this one. And they've made it even worse. So let's go ahead and read it and laugh. All right, the title, United States District Court, Eastern District of Wisconsin, Milwaukee Division. And the first thing you see is, oh my God, they still didn't correct the spelling of Wisconsin. The first one that they filed, which I covered in a previous video, had Wisconsin misspelled, and it's still misspelled months later. What are they doing? Look, it's in the title. This just looks bad.
Hi, I'm the most local person in here.
They've had plenty of time to revise this thing correctly, but okay. Let's zoom on down. And of course we have David Beth and Miskin as the usual suspects. We've now added the Racine County Sheriff's Department, the Sauk County Sheriff's Department, I don't know, Walworth County, Washington County, Menominee Falls, West Allis. Oh boy, they're suing everybody. And you know what this is about. They know that their chances aren't very good, but they figure if they sue enough people, maybe a few of these people would be willing to kick in some money to make them go away. And the sorry thing about it is, it just might work. All right, here we go. First amended complaint. And I love the drama. Now comes plaintiff John Huber in his individual capacity and as personal representative of the estate of Anthony Huber. Oh, by the way, Karen Bloom, who is John Huber's wife and Anthony Huber's mother, she's not going to get anything. Sorry, Karen, but he left you out of it. And I'm going to go ahead and skip on down a little bit here. The introduction starts. This case involves the tragic death of Anthony Huber, a beloved son and community member, who was shot and killed while committing an act of remarkable heroism. Oh my gosh. Pretty amazing, that Anthony Huber. On August 25th, in Kenosha, Huber was participating in protests against police violence, which were sparked by the police shooting of Jacob Blake 2 days earlier. Mr. Blake was a black man who had been shot in the back 7 times by an officer in the Kenosha Police Department, and Huber was among many who peacefully protested. Peacefully protested the shooting and Kenosha's pattern of racist and violent behavior by police officers and other officials. During the protests, private citizens took up arms and patrolled the streets of Kenosha, acting as law enforcement agents. No, but we'll cover that here a little bit later. Many of them had posted racist messages and threatened violence on social media before descending upon Kenosha. They made their plans known to law enforcement officials. These armed individuals were not Kenosha business owners whose property had been damaged, nor were they hired by any of those businesses to come protect their property. One of these armed individuals was defendant Kyle Rittenhouse, who was then 17 years old. He crossed into Wisconsin from Illinois, carrying an assault rifle on the streets of Kenosha. And get this, in open violation of the law.
He's crazy, man. We were thinking that the gang needs a crazy guy.
Okay, Anand, this is ludicrous. Dude, did you not watch the trial? There's no excuse for this. You should know that it has not been declared that Kyle's possession of the rifle that night was illegal. But we'll come back to this here a little bit later. Astonishingly, the Kenosha Police Department, Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, their supervising officials and police officers and law enforcement officers from surrounding communities did not treat defendant Rittenhouse or any of the other armed individuals patrolling the streets as a threat to the safety of themselves or the citizens they were sworn to protect. Instead, the law enforcement defendants deputized these armed individuals. Do you hear me? They deputized these armed individuals, conspired with them, and ratified their actions by letting them patrol the streets armed with deadly weapons to mete out justice as they saw fit. Really? Okay. In addition, the law enforcement defendants thanked defendant Rittenhouse and other armed individuals, gave them water, and allowed them to openly defy the emergency curfew order that was in place. The law enforcement defendants even made plans to funnel the protesters toward the armed individuals, deal with them. Okay, and I'm sorry, Anand, but this is ridiculous. Dude, look, read the last sentence again. The law enforcement defendants even made plans to funnel the protesters toward the armed individuals, deal with them. Obviously, you have a problem with your sentence construction there, but it was in the earlier draft. Why didn't you fix this? Do you not read your own documents before you file them? As a result, defendant Rittenhouse fired his assault rifle indiscriminately multiple times at citizens on the street. Really, yeah, that's what he did. He fired indiscriminately. So when he shot Joseph Rosenbaum, he was just shooting around in any kind of direction, and he happened to shoot Joseph Rosenbaum.
Okay, that was weird.
And the same goes for Anthony Huber and Gage Grosskreutz. Give me a break. Regardless of whether you thought that he should have shot Gage Grosskreutz, Anthony Huber, and Joseph Rosenbaum, he certainly did not fire indiscriminately. He shot the people that were attacking him. Even if you think that their attacks were justified, it's still not indiscriminate. Jeez. I mean, how do you take this lawsuit seriously when they say these kind of things? All right. He shot and killed 2 men, seriously injured a third, and narrowly missed a fourth. At the time defendant Rittenhouse encountered Anthony Huber, defendant Rittenhouse had already killed 1 man. I'm not sure that's technically true, because I think that Rosenbaum was still alive when Kyle shot Huber, but whatever. Oh, here we go again. Anthony Huber is a hero. He attempted to disarm defendant Rittenhouse, end the gunfire, stop the bloodshed, and protect his fellow citizens. Tragically, Anthony died when defendant Rittenhouse shot him in the chest as Anthony tried to pull the assault rifle from defendant Rittenhouse's hands. And of course, there's a lot of information missing from those statement of facts. The fact that Anthony Huber tried to kill Kyle before this. Not even mentioned. But it's still early in the game yet. We'll see. The conduct of the defendants in this case directly caused Anthony Huber's death. Anthony's father, John Huber, and his mother, Karen Bloom, now seek justice for the death of their son. I'm not sure Karen's going to get anything, but not my problem. And I'm going to skip on down. All right, now we're going down to the section called Facts. If there's one thing that you know, you can trust the content in a section called Facts, right? We'll see. On August 23rd in Kenosha, Wisconsin, KPD officer Rustin Shesky shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times without justification. Gee, is that a fact? No, I think that's an opinion, and I think it's a really bad one. The Wisconsin DOJ already investigated the incident and said that Officer Rustin Shesky was justified in his actions. So how can they claim that he shot Jacob Blake in the back 7 times without justification? So we have one statement here in the lawsuit and already one falsehood. Neighbors and other concerned residents in Kenosha demonstrated in protest against the shooting of Jacob Blake. Demonstrators initially gathered at the site where Mr. Blake was shot. When video of the KPD's shooting of Blake was released, it rightly sparked public outrage. Rightly sparked public outrage? This is in the facts section? That's an opinion. And again, not a very good one, because the Wisconsin DOJ later found that he acted justifiably. That evening, hundreds of additional demonstrators gathered in downtown Kenosha to protest. All right, so we have another statement here in the facts section that is not a fact and really stretches the truth a lot. Officers from the KPD and the KCSD were dispatched to monitor the demonstrations, police the actions of individuals present, and disperse the crowds. That looks factually correct. Congratulations. The KPD and KCSD officers at the scene were antagonistic toward the demonstrators, who were voicing their outrage at the racist and systemic violence conducted by the very officers who were policing the demonstrations. Oh, good Lord. You have to be kidding me. Okay. An emergency overnight curfew of 10:15 p.m. was put in place. The curfew was aimed at protesters and not actually directed at or enforced against others in the city violating the order. Yeah, I think that the police chief said something about the fact that they enforced the curfew against those who were actually committing violent acts. In other words, the curfew was aimed at people who were troublemakers. And that's probably a very reasonable thing to do. You can't jail everybody, so you go after the people who are causing the most trouble. And guess what? It wasn't the people walking around with guns protecting property. It was Anthony Huber and his friends. Officers from the KPD and KCSD fired tear gas and rubber bullets into the crowds to break up the demonstrations, and they arrested many demonstrators. On Monday, August 24th, the demonstrations continued. Defendant Beth put in place an 8 p.m. curfew. Again, the curfew was aimed at protesters. Well, actually, rioters. And you'll notice that they never use the term rioter anywhere in his lawsuit. And in fact, the property damage and the assaults and all of the horrible things that happened in Kenosha during these riots is never mentioned anywhere in the lawsuit. That curfew remained in effect on August 25th. On August 25th, in addition to the officers from KPD and KCSD, the additionally responding departments, and that's all those other sheriff's offices and police departments that joined in all the fun, deployed officers and equipment to participate in the response and control of the protests in Kenosha. The additionally responding officers joined forces with the KPD and KCSD and worked under their coordination and tactical command. The Waukesha, Racine, Sauk, I guess that's how you pronounce it, Walworth, and Washington County Sheriff's Departments deployed Special Weapons and Tactics, SWAT, teams to coordinate with KPD and KCSD to respond to and control the protests in Kenosha. Okay. In addition to officers, the additionally responding departments also deployed equipment, including service weapons. Oh my God. Those police officers and sheriff's deputies were allowed to carry their normal service weapons with them. And crowd control tools such as pepper spray, tear gas, and so-called non-lethal weapons such as beanbag shotguns and rubber bullets. They're not so-called non-lethal weapons. They're categorized as non-lethal weapons, which occasionally could kill somebody. I mean, that can happen. The additionally responding departments also provided armored military vehicles designed for use in war, including Bearcats, which were not really designed for use in war as so much for use by police agencies, and mine-resistant ambush-protected trucks. I am sorry, but a Bearcat is only designed to transport officers from one place to another in a place where you can't shoot them, and you're complaining about it? Really? Like, what is it about a Bearcat that you fear so much? And you know what it is. You can't attack them. That's the problem. Well, you can attack the Bearcat, but you can't attack the people inside. At various times, KPD and KCSD and the additionally responding departments used all these tools on or against protesters. So how do you use a Bearcat on protesters? Are you going to run them over with it? No, all you're doing is just transporting troops one place to another so that they can't get attacked. Jeez. Oh, but it gets worse. Tear gas is a chemical weapon that the United States military is banned from using. Well, actually, all militaries are banned from using under the 1925 Geneva Protocol and the United Nations Chemical Weapons Conventions that went into effect in 1997. The KPD, KCSD, and additionally responding departments deployed it repeatedly on protesters in Kenosha between August 23rd and 25th. The fact that tear gas is banned by militaries is of no consequence here. Who cares? And I know what some of you are thinking. Well, if you can't use it against soldiers, how can you use it against civilians? Well, let me tell you how. Tear gas is banned by militaries because it can be used to simulate a nerve agent attack. Sending tear gas towards your enemy creates panic. They think they're under attack by a real nerve agent. Therefore, it induces panic in troops, forcing retreats. That's something they did not want to have happen. And so they banned tear gas for militaries. However, tear gas is specifically allowed for use as riot control. You can use it against civilian populations. It's perfectly legal. And the reason why you can use it against civilian populations is that when you induce a tear gas attack, nobody in the population thinks that they're getting attacked by some sort of nerve gas or something like that. This is not war. It's riot control. I've heard this dumb argument so many times. You know that tear gas is banned by military use. Well, yeah, but the military wasn't using it, so who cares? Now, some of you are still thinking, well, golly, it's such a horrible weapon. What would you prefer they use? Water cannons? Those things are dangerous. Somehow, police agencies have to be able to control riots so that businesses don't get burned to the ground and people don't get hurt. And tear gas is probably the most effective weapon there is for doing that. If you take it away, you're basically leaving communities unprotected. At any rate, number 45 here is absurd. If I'm a judge, I'm thinking, get this crap off my desk. It's a stupid argument, and it shouldn't even be in there. On the night of August 25th, the additionally responding officers all coordinated with and acted under a shared tactical command with KPD and KCSD. All right, here's the header. Defendants know armed individuals plan to patrol Kenosha and have threatened harm to citizens. The demonstrations continued into August 25th. That evening, armed individuals descended on Kenosha. They could be seen patrolling the streets in and around the demonstrations, brandishing weapons, threatening residents, and pointing weapons at peaceful demonstrators without provocation. Actually, there really wasn't much of that. But whatever. Kyle wasn't doing any of that. Never saw him brandish a weapon. Never saw him point his weapon at peaceful demonstrators. Never saw him threaten anybody. Oh, it's getting sinister now. Listen to this. The armed individuals had arrived in part based on a Facebook post by Kevin Mathewson on behalf of a militia group he formed called the Kenosha Guard. Mathewson put out a call on Facebook for patriots willing to take up arms and defend our city tonight against the evil thugs. He received hundreds of online responses, including many hundreds of people indicating that they would be attending. The responders to Mathewson's post made clear that they intended to patrol the demonstrations armed and with the intent to kill. Responses included the following. Counter-protest? Nah, I fully plan to kill looters and rioters tonight. I have my suppressor on my AR. These fools won't even know what hit them. It's about time. Now it's time to switch to real bullets and put a stop to these impetuous children rioting. Use hollow points. They expand on contact. Armed and ready. Shoot to kill tonight. Of course, there's a problem with these comments. First of all, nobody that's being sued made them. Kyle didn't make them. In fact, there's no evidence that he even saw these. The other one is that these people who wrote this, they either were lying or they didn't show up. None of these people did what they said they were going to do. This is just banter. A bunch of kids online making these comments. You can't take this crap seriously. I mean, sure, you have to at least consider the possibility it does raise an alarm, but give me a break. None of this stuff actually transpired. Defendants knew about the plans and intentions of the armed individuals, including the social media posts. There were no intentions. They didn't do any of it. And the plans and intentions of the pro-militia armed individuals that descended on downtown Kenosha. Mathewson is a former Kenosha alderman, was known to the defendants, and speaks regularly with defendant Miskinis. Yeah, you know why? Well, first of all, he's a former alderman, so obviously he knows a lot of people. Also, he is the editor of the Kenosha County Eye, which is, in my opinion, the best newspaper in Kenosha. And it's been a fantastic source of information. And why? Because he does talk to everybody. He knows defendant Miskinis. He knows, I'm sure, David Beck. I'm sure he knows everybody. That's his job. Mathewson, calling himself the commander of the Kenosha Guard, emailed defendant Miskinis and Joseph Noselik, KPD's public information officer, and stated, Chief Miskinis, as you know, I am the commander of the Kenosha Guard, a local militia. We are mobilizing tonight and have about 3,000 RSVPs. We have volunteers that will be at uptown, downtown, and at the entrance to other neighborhoods. Mathewson also posted the email in an open letter to the Kenosha Chief of Police on social media. The email and social media posts made clear that these volunteers, put that in quotation marks, but I don't know why. Are you suggesting that they were hired mercenaries? As far as I can tell, they were volunteers. You may not like what they're volunteering to do, but that doesn't mean that they're not volunteers. would not be there to protect their own homes or businesses, and that they had not been hired by any local business to secure property. Instead, they intended to patrol the streets, acting as armed law enforcement officials. No, they were not. They didn't detain anybody. They didn't arrest anybody. They didn't inflict justice on anybody. As near as I can tell, the only assaults that ever took place were in self-defense when they were attacked first. And I'm sorry, protecting private property, putting out fires, that is not vigilantism. And that is not acting as law enforcement officials. Law enforcement officials, cops, will not protect your private property. If you don't believe me, tell them that you're going on vacation sometime and ask them if they'll come around and protect your property for you. They're not going to do it. They will laugh. They'll say, "Oh, ha, ha, that was really funny. Why don't you call a private security company who specialize in that? Because we don't do it." Now, some of those cops might do it on their own time for a fee, sure, but it is not a proper function of a law enforcement agency. Neither Defendant Miskinis nor Defendant Beth made any attempt to dissuade Mathewson or any other armed individuals from showing up in Kenosha to patrol the streets. Defendants Miskinis and Beth acknowledged that the KPD and KCSD were aware that pro-militia armed individuals intended to patrol and then did patrol downtown Kenosha. The additionally responding departments and their officers were also fully aware that there were pro-militia armed individuals who were patrolling downtown Kenosha. This was obvious to them when on scene. Indeed, one of the additionally responding officers wrote in his report from the night of August 25, 2020, that throughout the night, they observed pro-militia groups armed, mostly with long guns in the area of 60th and Sheridan. Okay, and you're suing them for what? Open carry is legal in Wisconsin. They can do that. So what were you wanting these police officers from all these various agencies to actually do? Detain them? But now you're violating Fourth Amendment rights. I mean, you have to detail what you're All right, now it gets really rich. Defendant Rittenhouse shoots Anthony Hubert and 2 others. Among the armed individuals who arrived in Kenosha on August 25th was Defendant Kyle Rittenhouse. Rittenhouse was a 17-year-old from Antioch, Illinois. By his appearance, Defendant Rittenhouse was obviously a minor. Could you just put Rittenhouse instead of Defendant Rittenhouse? This is getting kind of tiresome. Rittenhouse possessed a Smith & Wesson AR-15 style .223 rifle with a magazine holding 30 rounds of ammunition. This weapon was developed in the late 1950s as a weapon of war. Ooh, that's scary. So was my 1911. Who cares? It's a rifle. It's not particularly powerful nor dangerous. I mean, it's not bad, but there's nothing mystical about it. My 30-06 has a lot more punch than an AR-15. Believe me, if I had shot Gage Grosskreutz that night with that 30-06, he'd be a one-armed man. And if you want to argue the whole M16 versus AR-15 deal, do it in the comments section. I'm not interested. Been in too many of those. Defendant Rittenhouse was brandishing his gun openly and conspicuously, strapping it over his shoulder using, oh my God, a tactical sling designed to position the rifle at the center of his chest for rapid elevation and positioning. The rifle was visible at all times across his body or in his hands. Yeah, that's what the law requires. He's open carrying it, you dumbass. He can't conceal it. It has to be out in the open, and it needs to be conspicuous. The fact that he's using a tactical sling means little. The rifle is positioned at his chest at the at-ready position because if you're using a rifle to defend yourself, you want to be able to elevate and position the rifle very quickly. That's the whole point of self-defense. I mean, it would be ludicrous to see somebody with an open carry pistol who is using a holster that makes it difficult for him to get the pistol out in a timely fashion. Good holsters allow you to pull the gun out quickly, right? So this argument is stupid. It's loco. Defendant Rittenhouse was in clear violation of the law, which prohibits a minor from possessing or displaying such a gun.
That was loco, but not in an entertaining way. Okay.
Dude, you should have watched the Kyle Rittenhouse trial. If you're gonna sue him, it might have been a good idea. Did you not know that the gun charge was dropped? Now, that's not a declaration that minor in possession is legal, but you certainly cannot claim that it's illegal. Most lawyers who have looked at the actual statute agree that according to what they read, 17-year-olds can open carry rifles in Wisconsin. Now, an appellate court has not ruled on it yet, so you can't claim it's legal. And that's why I caution everybody in Wisconsin, if you're 17 and you think you can now carry the gun out in the open, you better think again. That has not been decided yet, although it seems like the law supports it. But whatever the case, this has no business being in a statement of facts. It is not a fact that defendant Rittenhouse was in clear violation of the law. No, 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 no. If anything, quite the contrary. And when they asked this attorney in court to explain this, oh, I would love to be in on that conversation. Numerous KPD and KCSD officers saw defendant Rittenhouse before and after the shootings that night, as did many of the additionally responding officers. Despite being in clear violation of Wisconsin law, no, that is not true. Defendant Rittenhouse was not asked for identification, was not questioned, was never detained, and was not disarmed. Oh my God. Look, okay, we have rights in this country, and one of those is the Fourth Amendment. You can't just stop people and ask for identification and question them. You have to at least have reasonably articulated suspicion. Instead, the law enforcement defendants allowed defendant Rittenhouse to patrol the streets of downtown Kenosha with his deadly assault rifle. They invited him in, deputized him, conspired with him, and ratified his actions. Well, first of all, aren't all rifles deadly? Why are you putting that in there? It's self-evident. Second of all, they allowed him to patrol the streets with his rifle because he could legally do that. They certainly did not have any evidence that he could not legally do it. And so they had no probable cause or reasonably articulated suspicion to do any of those things that you wanted them to do. Invited him in? When? When did they invite him in? Deputized him? The last time I looked, deputization is actually a formal ceremony. It's a formal procedure.
Now, the minute it looks like there's gonna be trouble, we got to nip it! Nip it in the bud! Nip it! Let's hear it! Nip it!
And I see no evidence that they conspired with Kyle Rittenhouse on anything. In fact, I see no evidence that they even spoke to him, other than to say, hey, we appreciate you guys, we really do. That's conspiracy? Oh, jeez. Hey, Nick, Rikita, he's a lawyer. He's one of yours. He's your colleague. He's not mine. As a result of the law enforcement defendant's actions within the zone they controlled, Defendant Rittenhouse shot at 4 Kenosha area residents, killing 2 of them and seriously injuring a third. Well, a couple of things. First of all, you say that all 4 of these people were Kenosha area residents. You don't even know the identity of the person who tried to stomp his head in, although I think we do. And the last time I looked, Gage Grosskreutz is not a Kenosha area resident. At around 11 p.m., without provocation or any legal justification, Defendant Rittenhouse pointed his gun at an unarmed demonstrator heading to his car to go home. Oh, no. Hey, Anand, you're an idiot. You're supposed to be a professional lawyer, but you read this story in the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal. You're talking about a dude who goes by the name of Jeremiah. Here's a little tip for you. Don't believe everything you read. Notice that Jeremiah did not show up in the trial. He was never called as a witness. That should have given you some pause about whether you could trust his story, and you can't. I already covered this in one of my previous videos. You should have subscribed to my channel and watched some of the videos. You would have actually had a better lawsuit. You certainly would have corrected the damn mistakes that I pointed out in the previous video on this lawsuit. But Jeremiah's story can't be trusted. His rendition of what took place is clearly wrong. Orkanut went through and tracked him and decided that his rendition of events was wrong. And if you read the story in the Milwaukee Sentinel-Journal, it's clear he did not see the shooting of Joseph Rosenbaum, although he claimed he did. His description of what took place is not even with the same zip code of what actually happened that night. Jeremiah is a fraud. He heard about what happened and he couldn't wait to tell a story, so he made something up, just like those people in Ferguson who created all these crazy stories about Officer Darren Wilson. Well, guess what? Jeremiah did the same thing. And he didn't know what actually happened between Joseph Rosenbaum and Kyle Rittenhouse, so he made up what he thought was the most obvious thing, but it turned out to be false. Get off it, man. You're going to have a very hard time substantiating this statement. Around 11:45 p.m., Defendant Rittenhouse shot Joseph Rosenbaum in the parking lot of an auto dealership. Rosenbaum was killed. Yeah, let's just gloss over a few facts here. This is the section called facts, but we're not going to mention the fact that Joseph Rosenbaum was chasing Kyle, that Joseph Rosenbaum ambushed Kyle, and that he tried to grab Kyle's rifle. Instead of seeking medical attention or any other form of aid, Defendant Rittenhouse called his friend Dominic Black, told Black that he had just killed someone, and then ran. All perfectly normal and justified, in my opinion. Defendant Rittenhouse ran from the scene of the Rosenbaum shooting with his assault rifle in his hands, holding it in a ready position. Well, yeah, you don't have a whole lot of choice. As you admitted before, the sling is designed to hold the rifle in that position. And he has to hold it because he's running. Otherwise, the rifle flops around. People were yelling that Defendant Rittenhouse had just shot someone. Defendant Rittenhouse stumbled and fell to the ground, and several citizens approached him in an attempt to disarm him. Oh my God. I mean, you have to be kidding me. Is this a joke? Look at the way you're making this sound. It sounds like Defendant Rittenhouse is running and falls to the ground, and then a bunch of people approach him by walking up to him, and he just starts shooting them and merely attempt to disarm him. What a crock. Man, you better hope the judge is not familiar with this case. Otherwise, he's just going to laugh. Anthony Huber was one of those individuals. Anthony approached Defendant Rittenhouse to disarm him, stop the shooting, and save the lives of others. Yeah, let's not mention the fact that Anthony Huber tried to kill Kyle twice.
Third field. Yeah, I'm crazy. I'm the loco one.
As Kyle was running to the police, Anthony Huber tried to kill him by hitting him in the back of the head with his skateboard. And then he tried to do it again. That's all left out. I'm sorry. These are material facts that should never have been left out of this lawsuit. This is intellectually dishonest, and it might even be criminal. Anthony Huber was a hero. Wait, this is in a section called facts. This is a fact? Gee, that kind of looks more like an opinion. Regardless of whether you agree with it or not, it's not a fact. Because the term hero is subjective.
It's the wrong kind of loco.
I think that Anthony Huber was a loser. But I'm not going to write that in a facts section because it's an opinion. There's no loser meter that you can apply to somebody that gives you a readout that you can say, there's no doubt about it. He has an L value of 0.4, pretty bad. And by the same token, there's no hero meter. There's no way for you to determine that Anthony Huber was really a hero. It's just your opinion. It does not belong here. As Anthony was reaching for defendant Rittenhouse's rifle to pull it away, oh, listen to this. Without provocation or any legal justification, defendant Rittenhouse shot him in the chest.
Man, you are so loco, man.
I mean, really, without provocation? Anthony Huber didn't do anything to cause Kyle to shoot him? It doesn't matter if you think that he was justified in what he did, but it's certainly still provocation. Kyle didn't shoot him for no reason whatsoever. Anthony Huber tried to kill him and tried to take his gun from him. And who knows what he would have done with it. Certainly Kyle didn't know. But whatever the case, it is certainly not without provocation. And without any legal justification, let's see here. I think a Kenosha jury already took care of this one. They looked at all the evidence, and all 12 agreed that he shot Anthony Huber in self-defense. That's legal justification. Now, I know some of you are saying, well, that's not really legal justification. Okay, fine. But it's certainly not a fact that he shot Anthony Huber without legal justification. According to whom? Amazing. Oh, and by the way, hey, Anand, the next time that you want to write one of these briefs, you might want to choose your pictures a little more carefully. You have here Anthony Huber attacking Kyle while Kyle is laying on his back on the ground. Really nice choice, dummy.
This is like watching the British version of The Office. Like, it's funny, but awkward and sad at the same time. Yes.
After Anthony was shot, Gage Grosskreutz, and by the way, he misspelled Gage the first time around and he didn't correct it. It's Gaige.
Oh!
Approached the defendant Rittenhouse with his hands up. Oh no. Pleading with him to stop his shooting rampage. He had this in the earlier version. And my God, go back, read it again. We know this didn't happen. At what point did Gage Grosskreutz ever plead with Kyle to stop his shooting rampage?
Loco! Huh?
And again, without provocation or any legal justification, defendant Rittenhouse shot at Grosskreutz from point-blank range.
Now I'm the most loco in the game.
Hitting him in the arm. Thankfully, Grosskreutz survived. Again, without provocation, that means that Gage Grosskreutz didn't do anything to cause Kyle to shoot him. What about pointing a pistol at him? Does that count as provocation? And again, it doesn't matter whether you think that Gage Grosskreutz was in his rights to do that. It's still provocation. Kyle didn't shoot Gage for no reason. He shot him because Gage pulled a pistol on him, whether you think that was self-defense or not. And as far as legal justification, can you really claim that Kyle Rittenhouse shot Gage Grosskreutz without legal justification when a jury already deemed it self-defense? Come on. I mean, I can't take any more. I'm going to have to do part 2 later. So stay tuned for more. Incredible. Like my video and subscribe to my channel.